Hello everyone, my name is Sashank Reddy Appireddy and my Unity ID is Sapphire SAPPIRD. The tool I will be using is Findbugs. Findbugs is basically a static analysis tool used to identify issues just by looking at the program rather than actually executing it. Today I will be explaining you about how we can run Findbugs on Eclipse on any of the open source project, and then also explain you about the different configuration parameters as well as a detailed analysis of the results found by Findbugs. To start off with, let us open Eclipse and then try to install this plugin on Eclipse. For that, we need to go to the Eclipse marketplace and then we need to just search for this plugin called Findbugs. So once you type the Findbugs plugin on the Find menu, you will see a feature called Findbugs. Right away, go and just click the install button. That's it. Once you click the install button, Findbugs is installed on Eclipse. Okay, now let me explain you about how to specify different settings for Findbugs to report bugs that are of importance to us before we run the tool. Select a project and then right click on the project to navigate to Properties. Now select Findbugs on the left side of the menu. Click on Configure Workspace Settings to specify settings globally for all the projects. Here you will see 4 different types of tabs, namely Reporter Configuration, Filter Files, Plugin and Miscellaneous Settings, and Detector Configuration, each serving a different purpose. So in the Reporter Configuration, mainly you will see different classification of bug categories identified by Findbugs. They are namely malicious code vulnerability, .g code, bad practice, correctness, internationalization, performance, security, multi-threaded correctness, and experimental. To mention a few about how these different types of bugs result in, namely say the correctness bug occurs mainly due to a coding mistake, whereas a bad practice bug occurs due to violation of recommended coding techniques, and a .g code occurs from a code that is confusing and anomalous. Whereas the performance and security bugs are pretty straightforward, as most of you know, like performance is to improve on the performance of the resulting code, and security issues those which are vulnerable to some security attacks. Also, if you want to find bugs to report all the issues which are at least of high confidence, then select the confidence level to be as high. Similarly, you can also set bugs of type scariest to be reported as errors while others to be shown as warning. If you feel that you want all the bugs with at least a rank of 10 to be reported, then you can set minimum rank to be 10. So you can vary these different types of settings and then you can observe the results finally and analyze whether these have been taken into impact. Now in the detector configuration, you will see a list of different default detector patterns of different bug categories mentioned before already present and selected. You can choose the type of bug detector you want here from the list shown and then you can run the analysis. Also, if you want to include some custom bug patterns, then select filter files and here you can select or write some new bug patterns you want to include by selecting an add and then including the filter file. So like this you can mention different custom bug patterns from this menu. Now coming to plugin and miscellaneous settings. So here you can mention some things like whether if you want to run the FB as an extra job, or if you want to cache the class data, and also if you want to make sure that a particular plugin which checks for Findbugs update, you might be sometimes don't want to run these Findbug update checks, so you can disable. So these are different types of plugins which are provided and you can select or deselect whichever you would like to run. So on a whole, these are most of the Findbugs parameter related settings that we come across. And last but not the least, here you can see an analysis effort, default, minimal and maximal. So here you can specify like what level of depth you want your Findbugs to find the bug patterns in your code. So you can choose one among this and run the configurations. To analyze the usefulness of Findbugs, I will be configuring particular settings on Findbugs and run it over Voltmod project, which is basically an open source clone of Amazon's Dynamo based on a distributed key value storage system. In particular, I would like to analyze the metrics, namely quality of bugs found, the time taken for executing the entire analysis run, and the memory consumption rate, the number of bugs found, and finally whether a detailed information about the bugs found is identifiable for the programmer who is executing Findbugs. So for this, as mentioned before, I will be going to the Findbugs menu by selecting the Properties tab and then Findbugs on the left side menu, and then configuring certain parameters for my analysis run. Say let me choose the minimum rank to be reported as 20, the scariest bugs to be reported as an error, and all other parameters I am leaving it as default. Okay, now after configuring this, let us run Findbugs on this project. Right click on the project and then choose Findbugs. Now select Findbugs. Once you have selected this, Findbugs starts identifying or running the different bug patterns on this project, and then in a few minutes we hope that the detailed analysis report is generated by Findbugs. Okay, Findbugs has finished its execution. Now let us analyze the different metrics and the results generated by Findbugs. If you take a closer look at the Problems tab, you will see the errors and warnings reported by Findbugs. Note that the errors are nothing but the scariest types of bug that we have selected in the configuration settings. Let us analyze a particular bug. If you double click this particular bug, you will be redirected to the exact location where the issue has happened. If you hover your mouse on this marker, you will see what was the reason in a short description. If you want to have a clear understanding of what exactly it means, just double click this marker. A bug info tab opens explaining you about what is the bug, which category it is, what pattern has resulted in. So basically this bug has resulted due to comparison of two reference values using an equal to operator. The Findbug suggests that it needs to be compared with equals method. Now let us analyze another bug. So if you just search for any existing patterns in the same file, we can actually search for a particular pattern. Okay, so there is another bug which we can analyze, and it is not of type scariest, it was just based on the color which I have set. So it explains you about what is the error that has resulted in this bug. Now if you double click it, you will see the reason for this bug. It says that in each iteration the string is converted into string buffer and appended back to the string. So this obviously is a duplication issue and this might result in a performance issue. So it states that this can lead to a cost quadratic in the number of iterations. So the type of bug that Findbugs has marked it to be is performance bug and the pattern as described below. Okay, so all these bugs, they are of high quality, which we can easily notice from these bugs, sample bugs. Now to analyze the other metrics, namely the number of bugs reported, the time taken for this entire execution and the memory consumption, we can get a clear picture about the usefulness of Findbugs. For that we need to just go to Findbugs and then select Open Analysis Results in an editor. So here you will see the entire description about the different bugs in XML format. So let me first analyze the time taken for the execution of Findbugs. For that, we need to search for CPU seconds. So here you can see the total time taken. So the CPU seconds says that it took around 189.92, which is close to 3.5 minutes. And also you can analyze the memory consumption, where you can see that the peak memory bytes consumed during this execution has been 449.15 MB, which is pretty good. When a tester actually tries to identify these bugs, you can just imagine how much time it takes to gather an information about a performance bug. It generally takes hours and sometimes it takes days. So Findbugs has done a really good job. And last but not the least, it also mentions you about the total number of bugs that Findbugs has identified. So with these analysis results which I have observed, I really found Findbugs to be very helpful. Also, if you would like to share these results with a broader team or use these results for a future reference, you can always save this file. For that, you need to just select the project and then navigate to Findbugs. Here, you can select Save XML. This will result the file to be saved in an XML format, and then you can use it for a future reference or for other purposes. Thank you.